Senator Edwards, who do you consider to be your moral leader?
He had black hair and a beard, curly beard, and he's really just a black man.
Gentlemen, welcome. Please find a seat and relax. We have a lot to discuss. Welcome one and all. I'm KC.
And I'm DC.
And we are two goddamn gentlemen bringing to you this and every week a celebration of all things cheating with a 4 and popping full 4s in subway parking lots. Head over to twogoddamngentlemen.com where you can find the links to our Twitter, voicemail, YouTube, and Patreon, which gains you access into our live Discord during the show, and to our bonus Lady of the Night episodes, a new one of which is available right now on our Patreon. DC, if you would please read back the minutes to last week's meeting of the Johns.
Happily, Casey. I can't get these guys out of my head. I didn't realize, number one, that John Edwards was such a douchebag. And I didn't realize that a human being could be as crazy as John Bulla. However, definitely both of them, gentlemen, in my opinion. For sure, I saw nothing ungentlemanly about either one. John Bulla did take his shirt off a little bit too much for my liking. So maybe John Bulla is a little bit less of a gentleman than John Edwards is, but definitely both deserve to be in the upper crust, I believe.
John Bulla might have been my favorite gentleman because you've brought a few gentlemen I've never heard of before, and that's my fault. As a gentleman, I should know the people that are associated in that category. But John Bulla made me laugh really hard last week.
A gentleman is born every minute.
I'm curious though, DC, about where they fall.
This was last week's, right? This isn't this week's because I don't see John Bike and Adams. Not so much our Johns. How bad was it? How bad was it?
Below the poverty line for both of them. Neither of them are a gentleman, according to the listeners.
How is John Bulla more of a gentleman than John Edwards, though?
I don't think anyone could argue that.
Because he's a prophet. He gets the prophet nod.
All right, so DC, now for the patrons and for everyone a week from now watching for free on YouTube, what they're seeing graphic-wise is the ultimate gentleman is King Henry still. We've got Mel Gibson and John Bodkin Adams on my side as gentlemen, and only Porter Rockwell, the only nomination of yours that has been considered a gentleman so far. And then right below the poverty line is just a mess of people. Now, normally you would see just two sides, right? Above and below the poverty line. But DC, we have one further thing to get to here. The bottom of the graphic.
Oh boy, that's not what you want. So far, and that's not even like, you didn't even stretch that. That was just different sections of the exact same long graphic. It's like, wait, hold on. Aren't there two more? Oh, yeah, let's keep going. There they are. And they just keep getting worse. I think Maddox debuted at like a 33. He's got a few more. Jonathan Yaniv was like 14 or something. Like, that's been our most popular YouTube video. If you didn't know we have a YouTube channel, it's Two Goddamn Gentlemen at YouTube. It's easy. All of our episodes up through the most recently recorded, because that's just for you patrons at patreon.com/2goddamngentlemen. That's our most viewed episode by far. It's got like 130, which by the time we're doing this for 2 years, that's going to be laughable.
Yes. I hope. That would be.
I hope so too. Otherwise, we'll be lol cows. We'll be on Kiwi Farms as a cringe podcast that just keeps going and going and going.
It won't stop us at all. Not the slightest.
No, go fuck yourselves.
Now, DC, we discussed this show prior, and we agreed upon kind of a Halloween theme because it is, of course, the week of Halloween, and you might say to yourself, well, guys, next week's show would probably make more sense. We have people for next week. Don't worry about next week. That's already
Don't you worry about next week.
Already spoken for. All right. This week, DC, nomination-wise for gentlemen, how strong you feeling? You feel like you can close this thing out? You want me to lead it off?
Well, in the spirit of Halloween, as you said, we both decided to nominate gentlemen that were a little bit on the spooky side, which is hard to bring into a comedy podcast sometimes. So I think we're really geniuses for doing this. As far as
let's do it first.
Dragging comedy out of
let's do it first before we're geniuses. We'll find out.
As far as pulling comedy out of serial killers, I think I've got enough that I could close. Why don't you start and nominate yours first?
All right, DC. As a part of our Halloween theme, I would like to nominate a man of many talents with a flair for the dramatic. My gentleman this week is Mr. H.H. Holmes.
Oh, nice. This one's so good. This one's so good. All right. Tell me all about him.
Now, Henry Howard Holmes was not born H.H. Holmes. He was born in May 1861, Herman Webster Mudgett in New Hampshire. I would have changed my name too.
Yeah, that's a terrible name. Henry Mudgett?
Henry Mudgett. He was unusually intelligent from an early age, and he did really well in school. There was a story.
You want to know something? You want to know something bad that I just thought about his last name?
Mudgett.
What if that was what? Yeah. What if that was what they called like black midgets, like back in the day? You know. That's just so bad. I don't know why I thought of that.
Horrific. It's not funny.
It's not funny at all. Stop laughing about that.
As a child, he was really afraid of dead bodies. So naturally, as friends do, his friends made him look at and or touch a dead body.
Mm-hmm.
Did not scare him as much as he thought it would. In fact, he was kind of like, now wait a minute, there might be something to this. No longer scared of that world. Now he was terrified of doctors as a kid. Now he's now he's starting to grow an interest, and supposedly, as a child or teenager, performed surgery on animals, which I couldn't find detail on what that meant. Not sure if it was good.
Yeah,
for
like
the
to
animals.
try to save them, or
I don't.
The dog had a broken leg, and he jumped in. He did surgery on the dog. I think probably he cut open a dead, terrible, smelly dog.
That would sound, accurate.
Yeah.
And dead, I don't think is required. So, at 18 years old, he marries Clara Lovering, whatever, doesn't matter. And then he attended the University of Michigan medicine and surgery program in the 80s. Smart guy.
Wow, impressive.
In his second year as a Wolverine, he stole and dismembered cadavers so he could claim insurance monies on their death because they were killed in an accident.
That's right. Yeah, I heard about that. Brilliant.
Victimless crime. In 1884, he earned his doctorate from Michigan. And I do just want to mention that Ted Bundy and Tom Brady both also went there. So there's a theme.
Yep, I see a correlation, actually.
In 1886, he abandoned his wife and a small child that he had, and he moved to Chicago, now under the name Henry Howard Holmes.
Smart.
He got a job working for a couple, the Holton couple, and that part of the story has a couple of different takes from different people. So the most popular story is rebutted by some, saying that didn't happen. He didn't do anything to those people. What his story was accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So, story goes, he moves there. They own a drugstore. He goes to work for them. He's going to work there. He works there for a couple of years, becomes integral to the business, starts paying into ownership stakes with the business. The husband, Mr. Holton, was pretty ill by the time he had showed up. And after a couple of years, he passed away. And after that, H.H. stopped his payments to Mrs. Holton. She was pretty upset about it. But then she just kind of disappeared. She just wasn't there anymore. And he kind of just owned the store now. And they asked him about it. And it wasn't a big deal because he's like, no, she moved west with her family. So they were like, cool. All right. Well, can I have some Tylenol? Because
yeah.
that sounds good.
Because I'm going to have to do a lot of paperwork after what you just told me, buddy. But it checks out.
No holes in that story, my friend.
Nope. Moving on.
All right, so in 1886, he puts a life insurance claim on his buddy Robert Leacock, who then disappears, and Holmes collects $40,000 off of the policy. So it's unfortunate for that guy that he probably got lost, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Not a big deal there. Still,
No,
I mean,
it's fine.
maybe
It
minor
happens.
red flags, but barely. Yeah.
He probably was having a conversation with HH, saying, "Hey, dude, I'm not really happy with where my life is going. I want to get more adventurous. I want to get into like extreme sports. You know, I want to do that kind of thing. Whatever that was in 1886. What would that be? Like high diving into a pond from a high water tower. Anyway, so
I think he's like, I want to get into some really dangerous sports. I'm sick and tired of the wheel and stick down the street. I just need more energy in my life.
I'm gonna build that bicycle with a 10-foot fucking wheel. Just see where that gets me." And H.H. Holmes, being the good friend that he was, wanted to provide for, you know, his beneficiaries. Took out a life insurance policy. Said, "Hey man, I'll be a placeholder for you. I'll be on your life insurance policy while you decide who your beneficiary is actually going to be." And then, you know, he died before he could change it. Airtight.
It's a disappointing end for Robert, but thank God H.H. was there to collect, and the government doesn't get his stuff. You know?
Yeah, and now that guy doesn't have to live with the name Leacock anymore, so that's good too.
It's perfect. Although it's probably going to be written near him for a while. January of 1887, he marries Murda Belknap, another terrible name.
Jesus Christ! What was that name again?
Belknap or Belknip. I'm not sure, but it's not
What
good.
was the first name? The first name wasn't good either.
Murda. The Murda Belknap.
I changed my Lady of the Night. I changed it to Murder Belknap. All right.
So, Murda, unaware that he's actually already married with a kid, so now he's got another one. Cool. Mm-hmm. He did try to file for divorce within a month, but that never went through, so stayed married. Not a big deal.
Nah, that was Henry Mudgett's family. It's not his family. It doesn't matter. Henry Mudgett's dead, dude.
Henry Mudgett doesn't live here anymore. He befriends 3 new colleagues that are now going to help him with his work. 2 of them don't matter that much. One of them's name is Benjamin Pitzel. We'll get back to him.
It's another terrible name.
Yeah. There's a lot of bad names in the late 1800s in Chicago, I learned today. So, after working at this drugstore, now owning the drugstore, he keeps looking across the street at this vacant lot, right? And he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I want to buy that lot and build like a 2-story multi-purpose kind of like building, right? He's an entrepreneur. He wants to do new things. So he starts to build this building across the street. He eventually decides that he wants to add a 3rd floor to the hotel after it's announced that the World's Fair will be coming to Chicago in 1893. So he says
it's like hundreds of thousands of people.
Mm-hmm. It was a big deal. So he decides, you know what we should do? We should add a 3rd floor for hotel rooms that we can rent out to people coming to town. He's a gentleman, takes advantage of business opportunities, right? Now, it was a weird building process because during the construction of this building, both the first 2 floors and the 3rd one eventually, Holmes would consistently have problems with the contractors. The work wasn't up to snuff, or it was late, or this or that. And what kind of ended up happening was basically like every 2 or 3 weeks, it was just a whole different group of people now building this building. And what it ended up with is a building that no one really knew kind of what it was built like. Mm-hmm. Probably just seems like a hassle, like a headache.
Well, and not only that, but he didn't have to pay them because it was so much confusion that he would borrow from one to pay the other, and so many people ended up not getting paid over like one little section of the house that they just let it go. And accumulatively, he got the house for like at least 50% of what it would cost anybody else to build it. This guy's a genius.
Is a gentleman. That's what I'm saying. So now we get to, we're in the building.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the beautiful Holmes Castle, as you can see behind me. Ned Connor is going to move into the building with his wife and daughter. His wife, Julia, his daughter, Pearl. They're going to move in because Ned's going to work at the pharmacy. He's moved, HH has taken his drugstore across the street and moved it into the first floor of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So Ned finds out after a little while that Julia has been sleeping with the guy that owns the building.
Oh.
He's like, well, that pisses me right off, I'll tell you. And he packs up his 1890s belongings and he says, I'm out of here. But
what a pussy.
yeah, he was just out. Julia wasn't worth fighting for. So
apparently not.
So he leaves. Julia gets custody of Pearl, and they're going to stay. They're going to stay by. So Julia gets pregnant, and HH is like, "Yeah, you shouldn't have any kids or any more, right? Why don't you get an abortion?
Mm-hmm.
I can do it. I'm a doctor, and if you do that, I'll marry you."
That's a pretty sweet deal.
So he's like, I got this whole surgery setup thing in the basement. Come with me. So anyway, after like that moment, her and her daughter were never seen again. I don't know what happened to them. I think they got lost. But
I think he probably put the daughter in her and killed all three of them. That's what I think. I don't know, though. I don't know.
We weren't there.
We weren't there.
So then...
What, did I build the house?
Over the next year and a half, he kind of dates a few more girls, and they like leave the house during the middle of the night. Like they don't want to be there anymore. Nobody really knows where they went, but they're out of here. Like they left.
Yeah,
they left for sure. They left.
They probably went to Missouri. They probably went to Missouri.
I'm 99% sure they left.
I'm 99% sure if you called for them, they wouldn't come. So they probably left.
They probably left. So
write him a letter. Write him a letter.
I did have these names. I wasn't even going to read them. I just moved past it. But now that we're in the name game here,
oh yeah, lay it on me.
Good. I don't even know how to pronounce this one. This is a weird one. Emmeline Sigrandi.
Okay.
It's a weird one. We also have Edna Van Tassel.
Okay.
So those were two more girls that he was hanging out with that just left. They left. So
there was Dingleberg, Hopsnatch. There was Fitzpatrick, Mangelberg. Like, what the fuck are these names? Get out of here.
In early 1893, a one-time actress with a normal name, Minnie Williams. I mean, Minnie is like a Disney character, so not that normal, but it's better than the others.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Minnie Williams moves to Chicago. Now, Holmes meets her for the first time, although he might have met her in Boston. It's unclear, a couple years earlier. And he offers her a job at his hotel as his personal stenographer, and she accepted. Holmes persuaded Minnie that she should transfer the deed of her property in Fort Worth, Texas, to a man named Alexander Bond, which was actually H.H. Holmes. It's just an alias. So that was good. In April...
That's awesome.
In 1893, Williams did transfer the deed, with Holmes serving as the notary. He later did transfer it over to another fake name. This time it was going to his buddy Benjamin Pitzel. He transferred it to him under the name Benton T. Lyman.
There we go.
Names are good. The next month, Holmes and Williams, presenting themselves as man and wife, that's three, rented an apartment in Chicago's Lincoln Park. Minnie's sister Annie came to visit, and in July she wrote to her aunt that they were planning to accompany brother Harry to Europe. Neither of them were seen again.
Oh, good. Overboard. It fell overboard.
They fell. It was a big wave, and he was sitting down and they were standing. That's probably what happened.
That's probably what happened. And he dove over the side and grabbed with one hand on the railing and grabbed Minnie just by the tips of the fingers, like a cliffhanger, And he's like, no, no, no. And then her fingers just snapped right off. A shark came out of the water and just like tore her out of his grasp. Only a shark could have torn her away from his grasp, but it did. And she drowned, and it was very, very sad.
I heard the shark utter some racial epithets too as he was.
He's like, "You midget." I heard that. I heard that the shark said that too. I heard that.
Yeah, he was the shark was a real asshole, and HH tried to save everyone. That's the point. So we've mentioned his gentleman the Jaws in the chat. It's funny.
Fantastic.
We've mentioned his entrepreneurial spirit. Based on this, and his former, medical background, he's a doctor, right? And all the connections that he's made over the years, he's able to sell skeletons to medical labs and schools. And this is a quote from an article, he and sometimes a hired assistant were accused of stripping the flesh off the bodies, dissecting them, and preparing them as visible skeletons, which I guess is not how colleges usually get dead bodies. Like, here's a skeleton, bye.
Yeah.
Usually it's...
Like, this is a real skeleton. We thought this would be ceramic. What's going on here?
Where did that guy go? How did they not ask who it was?
Seriously.
Records. Dude, this is as we get further into this, like, my main takeaway is how much life has changed with like phones and the internet. Because like
it's
all
cameras. It's cameras. The 1700s, mwah. That was liberty. You could write a constitution in the 1700s. You can't do that shit these days.
So
Third Amendment. What's that?
Later on, in 1893, it is now time for the World's Fair. Filling Chicago and anyone with hotel rooms with wayward young lasses here to check out the grand majesty of international culture. So, Holmes had a great year. It was a fun year for him. Now, there's no like timeline of how the year went because, nobody knew what was going on at the time. But we'll get back to the results of the year. But let's just say, as we learn more about the house, he had a fun year. In January of 1894, he's now in Denver, one of your old stomping grounds, and he marries another wife. That's four. Georgiana Yoke, also unaware of his previous 3 marriages. And in July, he attempts to fake his own death for a $20,000 insurance scam. But the insurance company's like, we don't really kind of believe this story. This is a little fishy. I don't think we're going to pay this out. So he goes to his buddy. You remember Benjamin Pitzel?
I sure do.
He says, hey, Benny boy. I'm going to find a cadaver that looks like you, and we're going to stage your death for the $10,000 reward. And he's like, yeah. And the only part of the plan that Pitzel didn't know is Holmes at one point decided, he's like, well, I don't need a cadaver that looks like Benjamin. If I just burn him alive, you just use him.
Just make Ben into a cadaver that looks like Ben.
That's right. That's right. He skipped a step.
Perfect.
He skipped a step.
Yep. Occam's razor right to the throat.
Now we can have fun with a lot of this. This one's a little less fun. This is where it all comes to a grinding halt for HH. After he kills Benjamin, he spends 6 months with new traveling companions, the Pitzel children, and they visit some family, and just kind of drive around. And eventually, I guess he gets tired of them because now. Now that's done. So first, the son Howard, he goes first, chopped up into a kiln. 2 weeks later, the 2 daughters are burned, and I think at that point, even in the late 1800s, like one family member was like, "Well, we saw them with Mr. Holmes a little while ago. Like,
yeah,
maybe he'll know where they are." Like,
he sure did.
I don't know how law enforcement
sure did.
stumbled into this one. But in November of 94, he is arrested in Boston, and he pleads guilty to insurance fraud, which, like, oh yeah, if I plead guilty to that, they'll forget about the other stuff. No.
Those Rico your ass.
That didn't work. So he pleads guilty to insurance fraud. A year later, his castle burns from the inside. So a lot of damage to the inside of the house. He's put on trial for the murder of Benjamin Pitzel, and he finally admits to some murders. He said he's killed 27 people, and he tried to kill 6 others. In May of 1896, Holmes is hanged for his crimes. A gentleman goes out in a badass way, hanged. His neck, however, did not fully snap.
Okay.
So it was 15 minutes of twitching until his heart finally gave out.
Okay. Yeah, he was unconscious way before that. So that's good. A gentleman deserves to... Oh, yeah. As soon as you lose... You're out after 5 minutes. If that.
Oh, so it was easy. 5 minutes only? Not a problem.
Yeah, man. Hold your breath. Hold your breath for 15 minutes. See how it goes.
All right, DC.
I assume he was a gentleman, so he was, he had some figure to him. I mean, he looked like a skinny guy at the beginning.
He was a good-looking man according to the stuff, but not according to the pictures. Yeah. So I'm not sure what they thought was a good-looking man back then.
We know what they thought a good-looking woman was, so they can't be trusted.
What was in the castle? The Holmes Castle, as they called it. Well, DC, here's what was in. There were soundproof rooms and mazes of hallways, some of which seemed to go nowhere. Many of the rooms were outfitted with chutes that would drop straight down to the basement, where Holmes had acid vats, quicklime, and a crematorium to dispose of the bodies, where there was also a body stretching rack in the basement.
That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. And I can't get over the wording. I can't get over the wording of the maze-like hallway, many of which went nowhere. Yeah, or also known as a maze.
Okay, yeah, that could have been written better.
So awesome. So funny.
And by the way, I like that the way that things are labeled. Right, I'm reading a couple different articles. I looked at a couple of images of like the schematics of what they figured out was in the house, and we're gonna get to it. But like the second floor was that was like playtime. Like the second floor was the place to be if you're H.H. Holmes. And
he's like sliding the eye holes of paintings and like
yes. And one drawing was like secret chute to basement, and then another one wrote thing he told the builders was elevator shaft used to drop bodies.
Yeah. Perfect. Hey, you build me an elevator, and then by the time the electricity guy gets there and like the guy to install the box in the shaft and the pulley system, he's like, nah, we don't need any of that.
Make him walk up the stairs. It's only 3 floors.
It's only 3 floors. It's fine.
They're probably like, dude, it's 1892 and you have 3 floors. Are you really buying an elevator? Like, this seems like a huge process.
It's like super new technology, dude. Do you have like slaves pulling the ropes down at the bottom? No? Oh my goodness. This is going to cost a fortune.
Always new ones down there. They're never there long.
Yeah.
So when the third floor had been completed in 1892, this was the layout. The first floor was the storefront with the drugstore and some offices. The second floor consisted of the elaborate torture rooms, which contained the chute that led to the basement. There was also a stairwell, a secret stairwell out of one of the bathrooms that went down to the basement. The third floor had more apartment rooms. In 1894, when Holmes was traveling, police went into the castle. During their inspection, they found rooms with hinged walls and fake partitions, rooms linked with secret passageways, and even airtight rooms that were connected to pipelines filled with gas that Holmes would use as gas chambers. It's a thorough house. Holmes would use chutes to deliver the bodies to the basement, and once there would make use of his surgical tables and array of medical tools to dissect them before either just boiling them in acid or selling them to Rutgers for like $60.
Yeah, probably the latter. You're probably right.
In total, it is estimated that Holmes committed over 200 murders.
Damn, dude! I thought I was gonna bring in the champ. That's the champ. Holy shit! 200 murders. Here. Oh man, do kids count as like a whole person? What about the baby and the pregnant lady? Did that count as a murder?
No, I think it was 150 adults and 100 kids. So that's how they get 200.
Okay.
It's like 50 halves. So.
Okay. Cool. So Roe wins again, or does Wade win? Which one is the one that wants the babies gone? Is it Roe or Wade?
I don't know. I don't know
me either. Ladies, come on. Your marketing needs to be a little bit better. If we don't know which one is which, how are we supposed to know? Anyway.
DC, a gentleman.
I think it was probably Wade because a girl who wants an abortion is always the victim, right? Or always the defendant, I mean. So it's probably Wade.
But yeah, back then she was definitely the defendant, yeah. DC, a gentleman always knows who he is. Holmes was quoted as saying, I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer no more than the poet can help his inspiration to sing. DC, my nomination for our Halloween episode as the ultimate gentleman is Mr. H.H. Holmes.
There you go. He kind of looks like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, you're right. There's some Aaron Rodgers going on there.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Fantastic. Fantastic. Week. Now, who didn't quite make the cut for you this week, Casey?
Oh, yeah, let's get into some honoraries. So, for my honoraries this week, DC, I have compiled my top 5 Halloween criminals. So, crimes took place on Halloween.
Okay. Nice.
All right, so, crime number 1. Halloween of 1981. The naked body of Sister Tadea Benz was found in a Texas convent. Autopsy showed that she'd been strangled, stabbed, and raped. Police picked up 17-year-old, this gentleman, Johnny Frank Garrett, who'd been spotted running away from the convent that night. Garrett got the death penalty in... Yeah, I just love the image of him running down the street. Garrett got the death penalty in 1992, and his last words were, quote, "I'd like to thank my family for loving me and taking care of me. The rest of the world can kiss my ass." End quote.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good quote. And no, chat, I don't think he's 17 in this picture. I think this is probably after he's aged a little through the law process. He's probably like 21 or 22. Would be my guess. Who knows?
He looks a little bit like I'm not gonna fucking remember his name. Will. He's in every show ever. MacGruber. What's his name? Will Forte.
Oh yeah. Will
looks
Forte.
A little like Will Forte. All right, yeah. DC. Honorary.
Right.
So he's honorary number 5. We're counting down. This is like Letterman.
Okay.
Honorary number 4. Halloween of 1974. 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien had been out trick-or-treating, and before he went to bed, his father, Ronald, gave him one more piece of candy. That piece of candy, unfortunately, was laced with cyanide, and within minutes, Timothy was dead. His father...
Jesus Christ.
His father, pictured here, Ronald, was ultimately found responsible, as he was in debt and had taken out a life insurance policy on his kids. He got the death penalty.
No shit, dude. Oh my god. Who has
not a good guy
life insurance policy on their kids? Like, I said no just out of like ethics. Like,
just in case.
Do you want a life insurance policy on your 3-year-old? And it said like how much he was worth, and it was like his life was worth less than Gray. Beep that. who's older than him, and then I was worth the most because I was the one that was like making all the money and stuff. So I have it in writing, like I am worth, like my life is worth the most. So I have that as like leverage now. Like, listen, honey, if either of us died, it'd be better if I did. Wait, I didn't say that.
DC honorary number 3. It was Halloween in 2008 in Sumter, South Carolina. Oh, Sumter, sorry. Most people who hear a knock on their front door on Halloween expect friendly trick-or-treaters. This gentleman, Quentin Patrick, was not most people. A convicted drug dealer, Quentin thought that the knock on his door was coming from rival gang members. So, as you do, he pulled out his automatic AK-47 and fired at least 29 bullets through the door, killing 12-year-old
through the closed door.
Through the closed door. Yes.
Oh my god.
Killing.
Not today. Can you imagine you're this 12-year-old? It's probably the third house he had gotten to. Like his bag wasn't even heavy yet. And he's just like so excited. He's still got like the adrenaline of Halloween, you know? No one's giving him that shitty like orange or black wrapped mystery candy that no one knows what the fuck it is, but it's like crunchy peanut butter in a candy. You're like, what the fuck is this? Get it out of here.
He's still got all his energy. He's still running up to the front doors. He's not like dragging yet. And he's like, oh, I want to go to this house, Dad. And it's done from there.
But in fairness, he did dress like a Crip. So, what are you going
to do? So young TJ was killed. His father and brother were also hit. And Quentin was sentenced to 30 years. Is that the right number? 30? Too many? Too few?
No, 31. 31's the right amount.
31's the right number. All right, DC. Number 2. John D. White had served 2 separate prison terms for stabbing one woman and murdering another. But in 2012, he was free, and he was a pastor at a small church in Michigan. He became romantically involved with a female neighbor, and on Halloween night was helping her get her 3-year-old grandson dressed up to go trick-or-treating. During the middle of this, he decides, you know what I'm going to do? Strangle her to death. He then dumped her body in the woods, and he didn't kill the kid. He dumped her body in the woods.
I thought he was going to rape the kid or something. It's like helping him get dressed in his costume. I'm like, oh no, where's this going? But he just killed the girlfriend?
He wouldn't be number 2 or 1 if he had raped the kid. He dumped her body in the woods, then returned to finishing dressing the grandson for trick-or-treating. White was arrested for murder, but could not remember if he'd had sex with the woman's corpse. That means he did. White committed suicide in his prison cell.
Did you have sex with his corpse? I don't remember. You what?
Well, that's just not an option.
Yeah. If you had said yes, I would have believed you less than you saying I don't remember.
All right, DC, it is time for my Halloween honorary MVP. For Halloween in 2011, 55-year-old Liddell Peoples was enjoying his Halloween candy when he realized that some was missing. He blamed his 49-year-old girlfriend, Maria Adams, and an argument ensued. She allegedly threw a plate at Peoples' eye, creating a gash, at which point Peoples allegedly grabbed a knife and stabbed her to death, claiming she had stolen my candy.
No. No, dude. You claim she gashed my eye with this plate, and I picked up a shard of it and stabbed her with that. Not a knife. That's way too premeditated.
Yeah, no, he stabbed her with a knife because she stole his candy.
Now, do you think he's mean mugging for the camera, or do you think the plate caused a stroke on the left side of his face? I'm thinking stroke.
Yes. I'm thinking yes. I think it's both. I think he's stroke mugging. He's...
Right side of the brain just took a ding, and left side just went, well. That's great. That's fantastic. Good, great honoraries. Casey, my honorary gentleman this week, my first one, I want you, actually for both of them, I want you to determine who the gentleman is. But in the first one, I think it's so obvious. I didn't really doctor the video at all or have anybody help me doctor the video. So if you'll watch this, you tell me who the gentleman truly is in this video. These two gentlemen, for those of you who can't see, are trying to stabilize a giant frame of glass, a window pane. There it goes.
Okay, yeah, they smashed it. I want to know who the gentleman is. Let's see, I'm going to watch it again.
Watch it one more time.
The guy that didn't help try to stop it. Is
the cameraman. The cameraman is the hero, and the gentleman, he follows the glass perfectly as it falls and just holds on the shatter. It was brilliant. Masterful videography here. Videography, rather. That man's a gentleman. Now, Casey, the second video the second video at first glance, the gentleman is not obvious. So with the help of a videographer,
yeah.
I've doctored this footage. Go ahead and see if you can find the gentleman on the first time through.
All right. Oh,
it was a
God.
gigantic
All right. So
water
off,
slide.
For the audio, this is a big man on a water slide, which it's a good start. It's a really good start.
There he goes.
There he goes, picking up speed. Oh, look out. All right, so he destroyed a guy at the bottom. Yeah.
He destroyed a guy at the bottom. Who do you think the gentleman was at first glance?
I don't know. I was thinking maybe you were looking at like somebody off to the side that maybe could have warned the guy that was coming across or coming out of the water.
Go ahead and push play, if you will. You'll notice the camera stays focused on the gentleman. Here he goes.
Okay.
He's going to push him down.
Look at the front camel on the trunk there.
It's so bad.
We're staying with the lifeguard?
Look at how intensely he's watching him. He knows what he's just done. He knows there was a guy at the bottom of that slide.
Oh, did he kick his leg?
Contact, he kicks his leg out like he just bowled a strike. That is my gentleman.
Oh my God. I want to see this.
Honorary because I don't know his name. Boom. Got him.
He just went, oh.
Got him.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Oh, man, that was
good
great.
Videography.
I thought so.
All right,
Casey. Without further ado, my gentleman this week is Andrei Chikatilo. Or Chikatilo. How the heck do you say his last name? Chikatilo. He's from the Ukraine. Born October 16th, 1936. So a little bit younger than H.H. Holmes, but way back in the day. Yeah, he does kind of look like Michael Keaton. You're right, chat. He was born with water on the brain. So that may have to do with with some of his tendencies. Yeah, he had water on the brain. It's a terrible thing. His town was such a piece of shit. Like, it was 2 farms and maybe a school building, I think. Like, it's very hard to determine what it is. They don't even have a Wikipedia page, so you can't even find out the basics about this town. But it is next to a town called Akhtorka, Ukraine. When Andrei was 5 years old, Nazis invaded his town, started bombing the shit out of it, and his house was actually burned down when he was a kid. So his neighbors and family had to rebuild it. His house was burned down. His father was drafted into the local town infantry or whatever and got captured by Nazis. So when the war was over and his dad came home, like, instead of being like this hero that came back, he was like shamed as somebody who let himself get caught by the Nazis. So he was this
he got McCained?
He got McCained by the country, by the whole country, not elected fucking senator. And his family used to tell him that he had a cousin who got kidnapped, a cousin named Stepan, who got kidnapped by neighbors and then eaten when he was 4 years old. And it wasn't really that crazy of a story to think of because this was communist Russia over the Ukraine, who like outwardly opposed Lenin's communist USSR at the time and then got crushed. So Stalin treated Ukraine like shit. So there were peasants who were farmers who were required to grow and collect a certain quota of vegetables and shit for Russia, and if you didn't anything over the quota, you got to keep for your family. But the quotas were so outrageous that people were starving to death, growing and picking food because the crime of stealing food from the communist regime or whatever was death. And so hundreds of thousands of people were starving to death while growing crops. It's pretty fucking crazy.
So the point of that being, someone getting eaten by other people is not out of the realm of possibility because they have no food.
No.
Okay.
It's a terrific invisible babysitter story to tell them. You know, it's like, you be good, or else you're gonna end up like your cousin. Like over here, we just do things differently. It's like, you be good, or Jesus is not gonna like let you into heaven. You know, like we have different invisible babysitters over here. They had neighbors, cannibal neighbors, a little bit different. Their family had a 1-bedroom apartment with literally 1 bed in the room. So all 3 of them slept in the same bed, and Andrei was a bedwetter because of the issues that he had at birth with having like water on the brain and shit like that. He just like developed kind of weird, like his wire. Obviously, he had some messed up wiring that came out on display later on, but early on he had PP issues.
Did his grandpa wake up in a nightgown and bring him to a chocolate factory after the whole thing ended, or what's going on there?
Yeah, he did. It was Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit different over there. It's V's. But no, he would piss the bed, and his family would like beat the shit out of him because they were like, you fucking pissed again, bah. So he had like this complex, and whether that was related to this or not, it probably was. He couldn't sustain an erection like his whole life. Like he just had this like soft, floppy, soft, floppy dick they couldn't do anything with. But he found out that he wasn't altogether useless. When he was 17, he was wrestling with his 11-year-old sister's friend, and was pinning her down, and she's like, "Get off me!" And he's like, "No, I'm not going to get off you." And she was struggling, and he was like, "Oh, this is kind of great. Like, I kind of like this a lot." So he held her down and like kept her down, and she got more and more scared and freaked out, and he
jizz in my pants.
That's right, jizzed right in his pants, and it was like a life revelation for this guy. He immediately after that just started jerking it into his pants all the time. Like wherever he was just like obsessed with it.
Is he just mushing it, right?
He's just like smacking it around. I have no idea. He's like hitting it against the sides of his legs. I have no idea what he's doing.
Like the thing you realize when you're 9 that you can push it into the bed and it feels good. Like he's just doing that.
For me, it was climbing the pole at the playground.
Sure,
that was my go-to. Climbing up the pole until he got the tinglies, and then you had to stop because your body went numb. You like couldn't. So everyone was looking at you climbing up the pole, waiting to climb the pole, and you were just like, "I've said too much." So there were rumors that Chikatilo was gay when he was in the army because he never had any success with women. Why? Because he was self-conscious that he had permanent whiskey dick all the time. So back in Russia, being homosexual was a crime. You could go to jail if you admitted to being gay. Jerked it everywhere. Okay, after he got out of the army, he worked for a telephone company because he studied telecommunications in college. Got like a 2-year Russian communist degree. Like, here you go. Here's how you work for the state. Congratulations. You're a member of society. Don't fuck it up. So he goes out into the woods, which in Russia is the best because it's like it's clean air, like it's clean dirt. Like even the dirt, is clean. City dirt is just it's a different kind of thing. You don't want to get it on you. So they're out doing their thing, eating lunch, eating whatever, and Chikatilo has really bad eyesight. So he starts walking off into the woods. He and I have
so much in common. It's amazing.
So he starts walking off into the woods, and he gets to where he thinks he can't be seen anymore because he can't see them anymore, and just starts jerking off his floppy cock in front of all his coworkers. And they all see him, and they're all just like, "Oh shit!" So now, anytime he comes in the room, wink, or is heading out, like there's always just snickers all the time, and people are just giving him shit all the time.
This is Jeffrey Toobin, like 85 years early.
Yeah, yeah. So, so he gets into a sports school for kids, and now he's at a sports school for kids. His younger sister is just more and more worried about him and like the rumors of being gay and stuff. So she's like setting him up with these girls, and he gets away with marrying one of them because he says like, oh, I don't want to have sex till marriage. He pulls the whole religious card, you know, and it works. And so he marries a woman and actually gets her pregnant in 1965, gets her pregnant by coming into his hand, jerking off into his hand, and then just like putting the cum up her with his fingers. With his fingers. It's the most disgusting. And he had 2 kids that way. A son in 65 and a daughter in 69.
Baster, man. What are you doing?
Yeah. And the wife was fine with this because he wasn't getting drunk and beating her like everybody else's husband in Russia. It was like easily 80% of the husbands are getting drunk and beating their wives, or at least getting blackout drunk. So she put up with it and it was fine. And she actually like stayed married to him through all these crazy troubles, which we'll now get into because he hasn't really gotten too bad yet. While he was at the sports school for kids, they went on a field trip and were at a lake or a river or something. Anyway. So this girl was out in the water, and he goes up to the student. He starts like groping on her boobs and reaching everywhere, groping everywhere, and she starts screaming. And he doesn't stop until the other kids come over and they're like investigating, like what's going on here. The school doesn't do anything about it. There's no criminal report at all, nothing, because in communist Russia, blight on a teacher represents a blight on a school, and then everybody's getting fucking fired, and you got to start over from the beginning.
That's not a good system.
That's not a good system. So anyway, they don't report anything, and he keeps going with his craziness. He would spy on the girls getting dressed, and he would just, floppy jerk it into his sweatpants. And then one time in 1978, a 15-year-old boy woke up with his penis in Andrei's mouth. And Andrei got the hell out of there and just ran away. Never reported. Never got in trouble for it. Nothing.
I'm trying trying to put myself, 15-year-old me, in that scenario. I don't know what I would do. Like, I'd be certainly confused. But beyond that, now we saw the picture of him. Is he like a big tough guy? Like, is he messing with 15-year-olds because like that's his thing, or because he would get beat up by like 17-year-olds? Because he was clearly not that bright. So
no, he was actually his smarts were the one thing about him. He was brilliant. Like he did really well in school, but he just had disregard. He just had complete disregard for the system because he knew he would just get away with it. Like he outsmarted the system.
He overcame water brain to become really smart. That's good.
Yes. It only affected his penis.
Oh.
And his murderousness.
Yes.
That we'll get into. So he decides after, because he's a father with 2 kids, he can't very well be doing all his murders at home. It's too much cleanup. So he gets a rape shack.
Build a huge home, DC. That's the point.
Yeah.
Then it's not too much.
Then it's just right. It's just the right amount of house. And maybe that's why this guy only ended up killing 56 people instead of 103 or whatever crazy number you had. What was it? 203?
Hey, yeah, it was over 200, and we're not everybody's Ted Williams. Not everybody can hit 406.
That's true.
You can still win a batting title at 330. It's fine.
So he gets on his hitting streak and gets a rape van, a rape shack in the middle of the freaking woods. And he would lure kids, adult women who are like mostly like kids, and like lure them back to the shack with promises of food, vodka, whatever else Russians like, those little dried fish that you tried and loved yourself.
Oh, so good.
And this one girl, he took her back to the shack, and she was 12 years old, and because he reminded her of her grandpa, she was like, oh yeah, this guy's cool, like I'll go hang out with him. He's got candy or whatever the fuck he told her he had. He starts trying to rape her, but can't do anything. So he gets angry and like gives her a little slice of the knife across the stomach a little bit, and she starts bleeding a little bit, and Chikatilo
Jizz in my pants.
That's right. Again, realizes, oh, that's all it takes? Well, this is a new turn for me. Stabs her repeatedly over and over and over again. It's an orgy of disgustingness, and he tosses her body into the river, he thinks, but it was nighttime. It didn't go all the way into the river. She just ended up on the shore, which is kind of comical
Andrei,
to think about.
When I tell you to throw a body in the river, throw the body in the river.
She ends up being found by the police, and blood is found on near the door of his shack. So the police, being bright as they are, they go and interview him, and his wife gives them an alibi, and they don't investigate any further. That's all that was needed, because down the street, just 3 houses down, was this guy in his 20s, 25-year-old dude who served 7 years in prison when he was 17 for killing a kid. So they just said, that guy did it. So they brought him in. They had enough evidence to sentence the guy to death. And they never looked into it again.
That man's name was Sean Avery, and made a Netflix document.
Never looked at it again. So he starts getting really, really confident that he can outsmart anybody. And the very next year, he kills 6 more. Now there's boys. Boys are starting to get killed in addition to the girls and women, including a 16-year-old boy that they said was like super physically strong. So that was kind of towards the end where he was getting good at it. Like he knew where to stab and stuff like that, to where it would hurt them a lot and not kill them. And on average, his murder victims had 30 to 50 stabs, which is freaking crazy. And all of them had their eyeballs either scooped out or stabbed. Because in Russia, there's a wives' tale that when you die, the last thing you see is imprinted on your retinas or whatever. And he believed this, so out with the eyes, or stabby stab with the eyes. Fix that problem right up. He killed 15 people in 1984, which made 30 total at the time. And the last 2 people he killed were mother and daughter. The mother he knew from an affair that he had had before. The daughter, I don't think, had anything to do with him, but for whatever reason, she came out to the woods with him and her mom, even though her mom was just expecting to get food to be plowed, I think was the agreement. And he starts killing the mom by stabbing her in the head, which doesn't kill her, so it just goes into her head, and she just starts screaming. So he grabs a hammer and just bashes the woman's head in, and the girl hears that and screaming and comes back and sees this happening, and freaking her mom there dead. Chikatilo,
Jizz in my pants.
it was there, and he ended up killing the little girl too, and got caught at a train station when a cop saw that he was coming out of the woods with like a bag, and he had like red on him, and the cop stopped him. He's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I was mushroom picking." The cop's like, "All right, cool, you're good to go." And he got to leave, and another cop.
Is this what everyone wants to fix law enforcement? Let's just go back to what we were doing before, which is like, hey, man covered in child's blood, what were you doing? walking through an orchard field. I hope it sounds fun.
Oh, is that the same orchard field where they're finding like 20 bodies a year? Yeah, that same field? Okay. All right, cool. Stay safe. Be careful. You wearing your mask? You better be wearing your mask. Because it's dangerous out there. Fucking idiots. So, so yeah, he gets off, and Japan realizes that there's this crazy blood disorder that Chikatilo has, where your semen will register a different blood type than your regular blood. So that's how he was getting away with all of these previous murders, where they're like, well, didn't we ask that guy that had the crazy weird rape shack? Like, yeah, but his blood is A, and this semen is all AB, and there's a lot of it. Like, we've tested so much of it that we can just look at it and know whose it is before even testing it. He jerks off that much.
It's definitely case 34. It's that guy. Look at the clumping. Just look at it. It's the same.
Look at the consistency. Look at it. Look.
It even tastes the same.
Look at it. He definitely had more borscht today. Definitely had more borscht. That's something to go off of. Look into all the borscht soup kitchens. Oh, Lord. So, Chikatilo got tried for all of these. He admitted to 56 murders, but they only found the bodies of 53. So they didn't take his word for the other 3, or are holding it open until they get evidence, I guess. And in Russia, like, anybody who's facing like a serious criminal charge of anything over battery, I think, something like that, they put them in like this cage. And we brought in a video one time on an old podcast where a guy like crawled out of his cage in Russia and like exited into the ceiling.
Yeah.
That same kind of cage, but probably with more restraints, were on Chikatilo. And they called him the Red Ripper, which I think is a pretty sick nickname. Or
why did they call him
the
that?
Butcher of Rostov. The Butcher of Rostov. Why do they call him that? Because Red Communist. Red Ripper, Jack the Ripper.
Jack the Ripper. Okay, got it. There was also people had speculation, by the way, based on like travel times and lifespan, that there was like there's conspiracy theories that Holmes and Jack the Ripper are the same guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why did I think Jack the Ripper was like early 1800s?
I don't know. I didn't look into this at all. I was just told that, and I heard it and then repeated it like people do.
Yeah, well, hey, that's fine. That's what Snopes is for. That's not for us to decide.
Yeah. I'm not sure Snopes should be deciding everything either. But
no.
Neither here nor
The
there.
correlation there.
What a gentleman.
I think so. I think so. Slapping around the soft shame cock. It's great.
Jizz in my pants.
I love it.
Oh, DC, what a show. What a couple of nominations there, huh?
I think so. I mean, I don't know how the voting is going to turn out anymore. I always think one thing is going to happen and the opposite happens. Russell Greer, his trajectory has very much confused me. Maddox was right where I thought it was going to be, but John Bulla, I thought he was going to give Maddox a run for his money with his craziness, putting his dick in his shit to expel a demon. Are you fucking kidding me? What do you want? What do you people want? But yeah, Chikatilo's great.
What a gentleman. Well, DC, I'll let you tell everybody where to vote and where to find all these things. But just a reminder that as this podcast is out, so should be on our Patreon page, our newest Ladies of the Night episode. I am very happy with my nominee this week on the ladies' side. I know you are as well. There are a couple of winners.
Why don't we give our ladies? Why don't we give our ladies so those people listening will know it's worth the buy.
That's right. All right. So my nominee for Lady of the Night this week will be Micah Stouffer, a beautiful, beautiful young woman who has kids and a husband and adopted a child, and then potentially like maybe gave it back. But we'll get into it on the bonus show.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of
and
I have a lot
my
of
lady of
clips.
the night.
It's a lot of fun.
Nice. And my lady of the night is going to be Amberlynn Reed. Go ahead and Google that. It should tell you all you need to know. This lovely young lady fancies herself an influencer, and she likes to eat.
She certainly
We'll get into that.
She certainly does. DC, let everybody know where they can vote and where they can find all that Patreon stuff.
Go now to www.twogoddamngentlemen.com. You'll find the links to our Patreon. You'll find every episode and every video version of the episode on their episode page, except for the most recent ones, which you have to go to patreon.com/twogoddamngentlemen to get the day of the audio release, or at the $10 Goddamn Gentleman level, you can watch us live. Can't beat it. $10 a month. It's like $2.50 an episode. Jesus, what are you spending on Netflix? There's nothing as funny as this on Netflix. I'll tell you that. They put freaking Patton Oswalt on Netflix. This is funnier than that. Come on, people.
That's for sure true. Patton Oswalt, not a gentleman. H.H. Holmes. And Andrei, say it one more time.
Chikatilo.
Chikatilo. We'll find out if they're gentlemen as the search for the ultimate gentleman, DC. It continues.
Camera's on. The camera's been on the whole time, huh? I don't even know.
Meeting adjourned.